So in the next this many minutes, I'm going to explain to you all why I think this is pretty much the only car for 90% of the world would ever need. Big statement, right? Small car. There's a reason for that. It's because this car is jam-packed with so much goodness that there's no other way of putting it. Nobody really needs that much more. So let's jump into explaining why I believe that is the case. So this Toyota Yaris, bit of a different car for my channel. It's not even a GR Yaris, is it? But there's a good reason for that, because this is basically the car that my parents have had for the last few years. And in fact, before this, they had a black one, which was exactly the same spec. And I gotta say, these are one of the best cars you can buy nowadays. And even as a second-hand car, I would probably say it's a safe bet. It's so good, in fact, that when my Lexus GS430 had a radiator leak the night before I had to drive to Paris, I took my parents' Yaris. And that car drove from Birmingham to Paris and did all of my Paris trips and back without any hesitation. In fact, it's probably the best car for the trip, because parking in Paris can be a nightmare. And this car was just the right size to be able to do it all without giving me too much headache. And how was it over that long distance drive? Well, there's no other way of putting it. It was absolutely stunning. But we'll talk about the driving stuff in a moment. Let's have a look around the actual car. Now, looking at the interior, it doesn't look all that special, right? It's got very basic switches. We'll just jump inside. We've got your window switches here. The rear windows are wind down, which is, as many of you can imagine, quite a rare thing nowadays. But we've got a steering wheel with the perfect amount of buttons for modern cars. You've got your cruise control and your music here, and the volume on this side, and controls for the dials. And we've got a nice infotainment screen. It does have Apple CarPlay, but it doesn't have Android Auto from what I've been able to see. And it has a really nice, simple to use heater climate control. These little sections here are perfect for, throwing in things, or if you've got your phone, you can just throw it in there. If you've got your wallet and you want to take it out of your pocket, you can just throw it in like that. These are all very practical things, right? You got nice size cup holders just the bottom, nice little cubby hole just here, another storage bit there, and a good size glove box. This is all basic stuff that, weirdly enough, nowadays in my BMWs, this is much nicer and easier to live with than my 7 Series is. And that is just so crazy to me to think, but it is. You've got so much cubby space all around you, and this is in a little Yaris. I don't know what's going on with the world right now, guys. How has this car got so much tech? And I know I touched on it just a moment ago then. This car has adaptive cruise control with lane assist, and we've also got high beam assist with the headlights. This is a Toyota Yaris, pretty much the most basic car that you can get above the Igo, I believe it is. And it comes with this much tech from factory in this specification. We don't have any fancy dials here on this car. This is the hybrid version, and it does absolutely everything you could want it to do. If we jump into the back, I'm going to leave the seat in my position. The back seats is where it gets a little bit tight, right? We've got enough headroom. There's a little bit of knee room space, not all that wide in the back, but we do have the good old wind down windows. If I'm being honest, I feel like if this part was straight here, it would feel a little bit less claustrophobic when you're in the back seats of this car. But my God, this is a pretty good amount of space. Is it that big? No, but it's big enough to have 4 adults in this car comfortably. You could fit 3 children in the back of this car very comfortably as well. If they're in car seats, it might get a little bit iffy, but otherwise it's pretty much all good. Let's have a quick look at the boot, shall we? Boot space is again decent. Like I said, driven to Paris in one of these, although we did fold the rear seats down and put more luggage and stuff all around. But as you guys can see, it's plenty big. You got the rear parcel shaft you can turn away. I can't remember if this has, no, I don't think it has an extra spot at the bottom there, but Again, everyone, I'm just going to repeat. This is a Yaris. You can pick one of these up now for 13,000. This car has only got 25,000 miles on the clock right now. And one previous owner has just been my parents. And my brother sold it on CarWow, or I think it was Motorway, for that much. For £13,500, someone's bought this car, and they're going to sell it for maybe 14,000, 15,000. But it's still so much car for the money. Now, if we open up the engine bay, here is the amazingly powerful, it's not very powerful, the Yaris's engine. We've got, weirdly enough, the jump lead points is actually in behind here on this car. So if you want to jump start someone's car from here, you have to use that terminal. And I can't remember where the earth point is, but something different, right? But that's the engine bay. And look how clean it is still. But let's jump into actually driving the car now, because that's really important, right? So let's start the car up, shall we? Everything's all good and set. Let's drive. So we've got the car started up at the moment, and it's started off in battery powered mode, which is perfect, to be honest. This is pretty much all anyone is ever gonna need from one of these cars. You've got the battery for a lot of this little driving. You got a little button over here for EV mode, so that means it's gonna, as long as I'm sensible with the amount of throttle I give, it will just stay in battery mode. That means right now we are actually getting 150 miles per gallon as stated by the screen. But so the whole point of what I'm saying right now about this car being all the car that most people will need is because, well, genuinely, it's such a great car to drive around in. The roads that I'm on right now, they're somewhat smooth, not all that smooth, but the car handles them perfectly acceptable. And the reason why I say perfectly acceptable is because that's what it is. It's not comfortable, where to the point where you can feel like you're in a 7 Series or an S-Class, but it is more than comfortable enough to live with and not feel too uncomfortable. This is the kind of car that you can sit in for a fairly long period of time and not get too bent out of shape and feel like your body's gonna crumple away. But it could be better, I will say that. These seats over a long drive, like I said, I've driven this car to Paris, and yeah, the seats after about the 5th hour definitely didn't feel all that good. But that being said, we had the rear seats completely full, so my wife, she wasn't able to fully move her seat as much as she wanted to, and I, being the driver, I was in a position where I was more comfortable than her because I had to have myself comfortable enough to drive. But the lumbar support on the back of the car seat, that was the one bit that was getting to me. But again, this is talking about over a long period drive. What was this car actually like for everything else? Amazing. It's more than big enough for 2 people to have a nice conversation, feel comfortable, not feel like we're bumping elbows or anything like that. You could easily live with one of these cars driving 2 hours on the motorway and not really feeling too upset. The other awesome thing here is the fact that you've got active cruise control, lane keeping assist, high beam assist. These things was a rare option to find on my BMW M5 that I had, and it's something that you have to pay monthly for with the active cruise control on my BMW 7 Series. We've got that all here right now, and that's just beyond crazy to me to think that how has a car like this got all of this, and yet you have to pay crazy amounts to get it from the premium manufacturers. The driving dynamics of this car is so much fun. It's got thin tires where it makes everything a little bit more exciting if you're driving it enthusiastically, whilst being very well suited to be driven that way. I think one of these with some nice grippy tires, wider wheels, and some slightly lowered suspension would be a huge amount of fun to drive around on some country lanes. And in all fairness, if you look at how good the GR Yaris is, and remember that this is the basis of what that car is formatted on, it's crazy good how much fun these cars can be. Not only just that, the fact that with one of these cars you're able to have not only a lot of fun but great fuel economy. At the moment, if I'm just looking on this screen at the moment, I'm averaging 68.8 miles per gallon. Now this car on local driving is going to give you the best results. On the motorway, from what I remember through Europe, because you do have a slightly higher speed limit there as well on the motorway, it was only averaging around 45 miles per gallon, which isn't that good when the car does such good fuel economy locally. But again, it's able to utilize the hybrid efficiency a lot better when you're in and out around town. If you're basically getting 70 miles per gallon from a car like this, what more could you ask for? You've got Toyota reliability, you've got GR Yaris vibes of driving dynamics. You know, if I just drive a little bit quickly right now through these corners, whee! It's just so much fun, these cars, and I would actually be really interested to see what it would be like to modify one of these. And it's actually something that I've thought of as a series to do in the near future when my wife is going to be able to have a car for herself, getting one of these and just making it our little project car for this channel as an amazing little daily runaround. And you know what, I'm going to do it. See, I'm in a little bit of traffic right now, and I've engaged the active cruise control, and it's going to manage the car's distance for me. Every so often I might need to press the throttle to you know, get myself going again, but it's so easy to live with a car like this. You see, this car has been great to live with daily. It's had more than enough space to have 3 people in the car just regularly going in and around town and, you know, going to the shops and whatnot. But it's also the fact that it's so easy to park up. The size is nice. You got a rear view camera as well. And yeah, it's just a really nice car to live with. And funnily enough, the sound system on this car is better than the new generation Toyota Supras. Anyone that's been in one of those Supras will know that the sound systems on that is absolutely horrible. And this car does it better than them. So that's quite funny. You see, the previous shape Yarises to this were not cars that you could comfortably just drive around and then do a long motorway trip with. This car feels perfectly capable of doing it all. It's nice and nimble and light and easy to park around as the other ones were for local drives, but the fact that it's so good on a motorway trip, which the other cars were never ever good for. So I previously had the original first gen Yaris as one of my first cars. It was a great little car, nothing wrong with them, but I had to do a couple of long distance drives in that. I would not recommend it. In fact, one time me, my brother, my sister, and I think one of our friends, we drove all the way from Birmingham to Southend-on-Sea in torrential rain to pick up a Bayside Blue R34 GTR that my brother and our friend bought at the time, a completely stock car for, I think it was 16,000. Long gone are the days where you'll be able to buy an R34 for that price. Long gone. But all that being said, that car was absolutely horrible. This car, on the other hand, if I had to do that same trip, wouldn't be too bad. If you actually notice, most of this time that we're driving around, there's not a lot of noise coming from the car. The engine itself, when it does engage, is quite quiet and, you know, subtle. Again, it's not pulling a big heavy car, which helps it along. Now here's a wild part, right? The way the engine re-engages in this car when you're driving it actually feels smoother than the way the engine engages in my 7 Series. What? living with the cars, again, these are things that you can pick up on. And I'll be honest, driving the 7 Series in hybrid, you see, right now the engine's just engaged. You feel like a little bit of a rumble, but you don't feel a loss of power, and it just kicks in. In my 7 Series, it's almost like the battery just goes bleh, and then the engine's like and then it's like you feel this disengagement of throttle, and you feel like you're not pressing enough throttle all of a sudden, even though you were just fine when it was in battery mode. But as soon as the engine kicks in, it's like you have to give it more throttle. This car, it's very seamless, very smooth. It just does what you're asking for the car to do. We don't need electric cars. I'll be honest, the long-term use of that, what's the point? Even this car, yes, it has a hybrid battery, and in a few years time, if that does end up needing a replacement, it's going to be a lot cheaper than having to replace a full electric battery on an all-electric car. My parents are moving over to a JQ, so that'll be interesting to see what it's like to live with. But there's something different about one of these. But right, everyone, let's end the video here. That was my nice little take of this car. In total, my parents have had a Yaris now for about 6 years and no complaints whatsoever. 3 years with the first one, 3 years with the second one, I believe, and they've just been great. Yes, they've both been brand new cars, but it's a Toyota. I can't imagine these cars really being any trouble to keep any longer than that either. If you like the video, please make sure to subscribe, like, leave your comments, all the usual stuff. The usual BMWs and GTRs and Hondas and all these things. All of that content will be coming soon. I'll see you there. Peace.